Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Sports Lab podcast. I'm here with my buddy Alex Smiley. Say hi.
Hi.
And I am Thomas Bailey. We're going to talk about a ton of sports in this, so I'm hoping you guys all enjoy it. This will be streamed right here, recorded right now, and then we're going to upload it to YouTube later. So, hello, everybody on YouTube. Thank you all for watching. Other than that, we're going to hop right into it. We're going to talk basketball, baseball, football, hockey. So make sure you stay tuned for your favorite sport of the four. And we're going to start it off with some basketball, considering we have the NBA Finals Game 3 tonight between the Mavericks and the Celtics. Before we get into anything like that, though, I would like to send my condolences to the West family. Rip to the logo, Jerry West. Amazing ball player, died at 86 today. Very upsetting news across the NBA landscape. Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, rest in peace to one of the best players of his generation. And he wasn't even just a great player. He also went and worked in the front office with the Lakers. He was the one that got Shaq to come to the Lakers from Orlando. He not only was he a huge impact on the court, obviously he's the logo, but he made a lot of winning teams over there in LA. So just one of the all-time NBA greats. It's sad to see him go.
Of course. Other than that, though, there's been a pretty dry day of basketball aside from the Kristaps Porzingis injury. I'm sure you're not too happy about that being a Celtics fan.
No, I'm not. I wish he could just stay healthy because when he's on the court, he is a
He's
huge
a
difference
baller.
maker.
Game one.
Yeah.
All you gotta say is game one. If you
Yeah,
guys
I, s-
know,
I
you
saw
know.
I saw a stat when he's on the court, the Celtics are like plus like 25 in the series, and then when he's
Oh
off the
yeah.
court, they're like an even like zero. So like it's basically an even series, but then when he's on the court, they just absolutely dominate because his ability to be able to stretch the floor at that five, he's incredible in the paint as a blocker, and he's not even like a complete liability if you get him caught out in the 3-point line on like one of those switches, like if it's like Al Horford out there where you're just going to cook him, or how Dallas was cooking Rudy Gobert last series. Kristaps can at least be serviceable out on the perimeter, which makes him just so valuable in this day and age where so many teams just want to space you out and shoot the three ball. For him to be able to hold his own out there while also being an incredible paint defender, it's definitely going to be a huge loss. Hopefully it's not a long-term thing. Hopefully he's only out like a game or two.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything long term, which is good for Boston. But I'm happy a little bit. I can say that only because of the fact that I want this to be at least a little bit more competitive. I feel like that game one, Luka didn't have his best game. I get it, nerves, things like that. But game two, man, he went out there, he balled, and they still couldn't really touch him. They were doing good for 3.5 quarters. They just kind of fell off, man. And it's a tough way to go out in game two. So I'm hoping that they can bounce back in the series now that it's going to be at home. So, as a Celtics fan, what do you think about your run here in the playoffs? I feel like, no offense, I think this is one of the easiest runs I've ever seen in my life. A lot of
I
the
mean, yes,
superstars going down.
you can make that argument. Obviously, they've not been facing teams at their healthiest, but
Right.
so the Raptors in 2019, is that not legitimate because KD and
Yeah,
Clay
no.
went down?
Great
The
argument,
Bucks, is
though.
that not legitimate because Kyrie and Harden went down? Like, yes, they faced a lot of injuries. Every team, basically, their star players have been out throughout the series until now when they're facing the Mavs fully healthy and they're still winning, who just
Oh, yeah.
got through the gauntlet of the Western Conference. So it shows that they're obviously not fraudulent. Yes, it's been the East was extremely easy, but you just play who's in front of you, and they went
Of
12
course.
and 2 in the East. They played who's in front of them, and they dominated. They went 12 and 2. They were a 64 win team this year, so it's not like they were some 45 win team that got lucky that they faced a lot of
Oh, yeah.
injuries. They were dominant all regular season. They're dominant so far in the playoffs. As they're 14 and 2 so far. I mean, you can't ask for much more.
14-3, actually. The Heat won a game, and then the
No,
series with.
because the Heat won a game, the Cavs won a game, and then they swept the Pacers.
I thought the Caves won too.
Last loss was game 2 against the Cavs. They've
Oh.
won,
Well, either way.
what would that be, 9 straight?
Yeah, either way, though. Like, realistically, I feel like they're out there to prove something this year. I mean, losing in the finals a couple years ago to Steph Curry in the very tail end of the Warriors dynasty there,
Yeah.
and to fall in that series, they have a lot to prove here, especially Jaylen Brown, man. Like, everyone's like, oh, wow, they gave him so much money, and, like, what is he to the team? You know, what is he to this roster? Like, is he actually worth that money? And honestly, I think he is. I think he's been showing that he can step it up. Like, I think I saw some stat where Tatum only had a few points in one of these two games, and Jaylen Brown and Kristaps were picking up the slack for him, man. It's just You never see Tatum fall off sometimes, but when he did, they stepped up their game, and I like that kind of balance for the Celtics. I really like your head coach. I think you guys got a good format there, and realistically, if it's going like this, there's a chance we see a dynasty again, just this time in the East.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're losing anyone this year. I think Derek White might be a free agent. I'm not positive on
Derek
that,
White
but
is a free agent, but I'd find it hard for him to.
they just extended Drew Holiday to be able to push some money over so they can afford Derek
Yeah.
White. So they're not losing anyone really, unless Al Horford retires. Maybe he could. I mean, he's what, like
Your
38.
depth,
He finally
though,
gets a chip.
the
There's a
depth.
possibility he could call it quits, but a backup big as valuable as he's been, it's not that hard to find. And it's not like they've lost their picks because they got Derek White dirt cheap. They got Drew Holiday, and I think they only gave up like 2 or 3 firsts. And then when they got Kristaps, they gave up Marcus Smart and got back Kristaps and 2 firsts. And then Jaylen Brown and Tatum, they both drafted with picks they got from trades. Like, they've done it without making a blockbuster trade where they have to give up their entire future. They still have a majority of their picks down the road to be able to, they can definitely go and get, I mean, when they drafted Robert Williams, he was like picked 28 in the draft, and he turned out to be a pretty good center. So I think they'll be able to replace him pretty easily, as much as it'll be sad to see him go. He's one of my favorite players. He went to my favorite college in Florida. So I've always been a big Al Horford fan. But yeah, I really could see them running the league for the next 5 years as Tatum and Brown finally hit their prime. And Tatum is really he's fallen off a little bit he's been a little bit inefficient at these playoffs that I'd more like to see, but he's stepped up in other ways. He's averaging a double-double. He's become a great rebounder, and very underrated part of his game that he's developed into a great passer. When he first came in the league, he was just a scorer that could play some defense. But now, especially in this Dallas series, he's beating everyone off the dribble, getting into the paint. They're bringing help over, and instead of taking a contested layup like he would in years past, he's passing it out. He's hitting the guy at the 3-point line, or he's hitting someone else in the paint. Like, I think he hit Drew Holiday a couple times in game 2. He's really developed that part of his game, which has just helped the offense flow much more instead of getting in those stagnant where they go 6 minutes with like 5 points because they're just trying to hoist up like bad contested jumpers.
Oh yeah. And another big thing here, though, is that the East doesn't really look that great. I mean, Halliburton's decent. He's doing all right. But you got a couple other teams there, like the Knicks. Of course, I'm a big Knicks fan. I heard a lot about Donovan Mitchell maybe being traded to us, although I don't know why the Cavs would ever do that, in a sense. Why would you trade him to another team in the East that's contending? Doesn't make for a smart business decision. But other than that, though, I don't see many teams in the East. I think one team you got to watch out for, though, is in that Western Conference, and that's the Timberwolves. They're starting to make some noise. Thunder, too, and especially
obviously
Jokic
Dallas
and the
being
Nuggets.
There. Yeah, no, the West is definitely tougher, but I'm not going to write off the Bucks yet because it was the first year of the Dame experience, and then Giannis was injured. I mean, if Giannis stays healthy, who knows? I mean, Giannis is still a top.
That's the thing, though, is if you want kind of like a counter argument to what I was saying earlier, kind of contradicting myself a little bit here when I say this, but that team that really got lucky in this year's postseason, in my opinion, was the Indiana Pacers. Like, they faced I'm a diehard Knicks fan. Everybody was injured in that series. It was just a rotation of who was injured at what time. And, like, in our biggest games, Brunson was out, like, we didn't have Brunson. They didn't have Giannis, like, the team that really did get lucky is that 45-50 team that is the Pacers there. They really didn't inspire me that much, like, they were a good team, nice feel-good story. I knew as soon as they faced the Celtics, I was like, yeah, it's a sweep. It's a sweep.
Yeah, they remind me a lot of the Hawks from what was that 2 years ago when they made that run. And then I'm scared they're going to try and go all in and get someone who doesn't really fit just so they can make some moves like
I feel like if they go
Hawks when they try to get DeJounte and Capella.
Yeah, I think they need to go and get a big. I think they need to get a big if they want to go all in. I know you got Siakam there, but I'm thinking center, someone who can really just make passes. You need a playmaker at the center position, and that's hard to come by. Of course, any team would want that, but I feel like they really need to find somebody at center because right now, I don't know.
I think their biggest need is a 3-and-D wing because their defense is pretty bad. I mean, Halliburton I don't think is ever going to be a good defender, but Miles Turner and Siakam, they're definitely positive defenders. I just think they need to upgrade at their wings a little bit. They're like 2-3 guard. They're 3-4. Like, I mean, Siakam's a 4, but someone maybe a little bit smaller than Siakam that can play a couple positions and can
Maybe
guard,
like a
because that's
Zach
their
Levine.
weakness. He can't play. He's not a defender.
No, I'm talking about just like scoring. I think that the interior can
But
work. I think they
no,
need a small forward.
scoring isn't their problem. They're the highest scoring offense this year. They were the second
Oh
best
no, I
offense in the
know.
league this year behind
Yeah,
Boston. I think and that was
I
with
don't.
Halliburton not
I
playing good at the
wouldn't
end of the year
go.
because of
I wouldn't
injuries.
go shooting guard though, because in the sense of shooting guard, you have Matherin and you have Nembhard.
I mean, Nembhard's more of just like Halliburton's backup, which I think he's a great backup. I've completely forgot about Matherin. So yeah, I would say they need to go and get, like, I think like a Mikal Bridges would work perfect
Yeah,
for them.
see,
Or
from the
in free
Nets.
agency, if the
Yeah,
Knicks don't bring back OG, I think he would work perfect too.
Anunoby was actually linked to them at the deadline, I believe,
Yeah,
before we
he's one of
got
the
him.
best perimeter defenders in the league, and it's not like he's bad. It's not like he's like a Robert Covington or
Oh God, don't say
the
that
dude
man's
for the
name.
76ers. I can't think of his name. That like guard Matisse Thybulle. It's
Tobias.
not like he's someone like that where
Oh,
he's a negative on
I was gonna
offense. So
say
you can
Tobias
only
Harris. I
put
know
him in
Harris has
certain
been falling
situations.
off. Yeah. Well, how about tonight's game? We got game 3, 8:30, a little over 45 minutes away from now. What are your thoughts on game 3? It's in Big D, Dallas. Do you think the Celtics come
I
away with a third straight?
I I think Dallas takes this one without Kristaps, them being at home. I don't see Kyrie having a third bad game. I think he steps up. I think Luka plays well again, and I think missing Kristaps, I think it's still going to be a close game. I don't see Dallas like blowing them out, but as I said earlier, it's a pretty much even series when he's not on the floor, and I think Luka is just going to be able to take over the game. I think Kyrie's actually going to be able to help him, and I think Dallas pulls this out. I'm going to go Boston in 5. I think Boston takes game 4, and then I think they close it out game 5
Game 5 at home. That's
on
going to be
on
absolutely
Monday, I
electric.
think it is.
I'm
But
not
yeah,
sure,
I'm
actually.
gonna give Dallas this one.
Yeah, I
If
think that Dallas is going to get it done too. I feel like losing Kristaps is a big loss. As you mentioned earlier, they're right at 0 right now, and they're plus minus without him. Luka's going to be Luka. I already know that. I think game 1 was just more of a fluke. It's just, first time in the finals, first game, a little bit of nerves have gotten to
I
the
did
kid.
see a funny stat. He's shooting worse than Shaq at the free throw line in the NBA finals right
Oh
now.
my God. I saw that too, because I'm like, he keeps missing. He missed 2 in a row the other night, and like he missed both of them, and I'm like,
And it's
wow.
not like he's a bad free throw shooter. I
Yeah,
don't
no.
get it.
You see him do
It's
a step
weird, but
back from the logo and fucking swishes it, but
yeah, I mean, or it can be like, yeah, Peyton Pritchard, what a shot he made. It was his first basket he
Oh,
made all finals, and it was almost a
see,
half
that's the
court. It
thing
was a
though.
buzzer beater.
That's what I was talking about with the Celtics, is that depth, man. That depth is insane. Like you got
Pritchard's a great
Richard,
backup guard. I love him
it's
as a perfect backup point
he's
guard.
such a good shooter more than anything, man. That's
Yeah.
his trademark, is his shooting, but he can play some solid defense too. So
Yeah, he's feisty, but his size limits him definitely to becoming an elite defender. But
oh yeah.
it's not like he gives effort. He for sure gives that. And I think that's what I like about the Celtics backups. They don't have a lot of like big names. It's not like we're gonna ever have anyone win 6th man of the year. But we have people who can do different things. Pritchard is a perfect 6th man that can go and get a bucket. Sam Hauser shoots the lights out of the ball, and then
Sam
Al
Hauser,
Horford
man,
can
that's a dog right there. That's a
and
dog.
then Al Horford can shoot and he can also play defense. So I think it's a perfect combo there.
So I'm assuming Horford steps in for Porzingis tonight, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And then
Okay, I wasn't gonna go as far to say Hauser there.
no, Hauser's more of like a 3, I think. And then I
Yeah,
think it's either like Luke Cornett or Xavier Tillman goes in and
probably
takes
Luke
those
Cornett, the
minutes.
former Hornets dude.
Yeah, I think it might just depend on how the game's going, because like
Yeah,
Xavier Tillman's more of like a classic, like he's not going to shoot or anything, but he can get you a lot of boards and can play in the paint. I think Cornette's more of like a spacer, so I think it really depends. Maybe they might split between the two and just kind of whoever's playing better, or however the game's going, whichever they need.
yeah. I agree. I mean, I'm excited for this game. I don't know about you. Obviously, you got your Celtics Jason Tatum jersey. You can go ahead and
Yeah.
show it off if you want, do all that. You got your Celtics. Yeah, you got your Celtics in the finals, man. I wish it could have been my Knicks, but, I feel like we'll be there soon. I feel like we got a lot to still work on, though.
Definitely a very deep team.
Yeah, we got to stay healthy.
Injuries
Got to
really
stay
really
healthy.
killed you guys.
Yeah.
I think they need to go out and make a trade for, like, I think a perfect fit would, as I already said, for the Pacers, Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
Bring back the whole Villanova reunion. You already have
Mhm.
3/4 of it. You might as well finish it out with McHale, and because
Oh yeah.
and that's even if they keep OG, I think like if you start
I don't know
Brunson,
if they do keep OG
Dante,
at this point.
but
I don't know if
even
they
if you
will.
do, you could do run a lineup like Dante, and then McHale, OG, Julius Randle, and Isaiah Hartenstein, and then off the bench. I mean, you might have to give up like a Randle, maybe he's like a salary matcher or
You
something. But
just
I think
you just said our starting five and didn't put Jalen Brunson in there.
I said Brunson.
No, you
Brunson
didn't.
was the one.
You
Oh,
didn't say
I meant
Brunson.
to say. I thought
You
I said
said
Brunson.
DiVincenzo, Bridges, Anunoby, Randall, and Robinson. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
well, yeah. I think DiVincenzo or Josh. If you can, you probably have to give up Miles McBride and
The
maybe like a
city would
couple
riot
first.
if DiVincenzo started over Brunson.
No, but I'm saying like who you have to give up to get McKay. You give up like Miles
Uh,
McBride. Um,
Miles McBride is a must-have in that situation. I feel like they need a
yeah,
young point.
probably at least 3 or 4
I think
first.
it's going to depend on where they go in the draft, like what they're thinking for the draft right now.
But this draft is very weak, so I would be
But they pick
surprised
right up
if
there at the
like
top.
if I'm the Nets, I would be like if you're trading McHale, I would be like I would rather have your pick next year than this year because this is like thought of as like a super super weak draft.
Oh yeah,
Like the top there, like I was looking at like NBA like comparisons for a lot of these top prospects, and literally the best name out there was the number one pick was projected to be Jaren Jackson Jr., which like he's a stud, but like
only when
if
he's
that's where you're getting out of your number one pick,
yeah.
kind of a weak draft because he is a borderline all-star DPOY level player. I don't think he's ever even made an all-star. He won a DPOY,
He's
but
not really big
that's
on
it.
the boards. Like he's big on the boards, but he's not really too great on the offensive side either. So yeah,
No, he's just he's a
he's just a
decent
rebound machine.
shooter and he's a great defender, and that's really about it. He's a decent wingman for Ja, but
Yeah,
probably a
big
number 3 on a
job.
championship team. And if that's where you're gonna get the first overall pick, that's rough.
Yeah. So other than that, I think that covers everything NBA.
Yeah, I
Anything else you
mean,
want to talk
there's the
about?
whole offseason ahead of us, but we might as well wait until this
Yeah,
championship is crowned to
got a lot
really
of stuff.
dive into what can happen this
Oh yeah,
offseason because
got a
there's
lot of
always so
stuff
much
that's
that can
going around.
happen.
Oh yeah,
But
there's a
I
lot of
think
stuff coming out there.
tomorrow night's game 3 for NHL. I think so.
Yes, tomorrow night, Thursday. Not Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's
Yeah,
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little surprised with the way Florida's dominated, outscoring them 7-1. I mean, 2 empty netters, so really 5-1. But still,
Should be 5-0 if anything. A heck of a softie given up by Bob.
that's no, that is definitely true. It's crazy. I really thought like I understand Florida's like they have probably the best defensive wingers in the league. Obviously, they have the best defensive end, Barkov.
Sasha.
And then they have other good ones too, like Tkachuk's developed into a very good
Oh yeah.
defender. Nick
See,
Cousins is a good defender.
That comes with Maurice though. That comes with him.
Yeah,
That
no,
defensive background, you know.
I was just really surprised. I thought it didn't matter. I'm like Mick Drysdale, that duo
No.
was just so good. I'm like, I think they're still gonna get their own, and I've been
Man,
proven wrong.
I'm gonna rant here a little bit because I'm a little mad about this. I had my bracket perfect all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and I had Edmonton losing to Dallas, and I had Florida beating New York, and then I had Florida winning the Cup in 7 games over Dallas, and now my bracket's ruined because freaking Dallas they blew it, man.
My bracket was almost perfect. Mine got ruined by the Vincent Trocheck third period takeover. Like I had Carolina winning that, and they probably were going to.
I told you the Rangers weren't those average President's Trophy winners. The Rangers aren't going to be like the Boston Bruins and choke it away.
Well, the thing is, if Trocheck doesn't have that third period hat trick, I think they do choke it away. Because then Carolina's riding a 3-game win streak going into Game 7. I think Carolina
it's at the Garden.
They won game 5 at the Garden.
Yeah, but they lost the first 2 games at the Garden.
And those were with Igor playing like a god. I'm not saying he wouldn't have in Game 7, but I just think Carolina was the deeper team. Obviously, the difference was the power play. The special teams and the goaltending really what won the Rangers that game for sure, or that series.
I agree. The thing is, though, with the Rangers, is you could tell what their goal was. It was to get as much depth as they possibly could at the deadline. They went out and got Wenberg there. They went out and got Jack Roslovic. They just went out and got third and fourth line guys. They knew they weren't going to do much. Honestly, Wenberg played on the second line, but only because of the injury to Philip Hedl. When Hedl came back in, he went down to the fourth line. And so realistically, it makes a lot of sense why the Rangers ended up winning. That depth really did end up paying off a little bit. Trocheck's turned into an absolute beast for them.
Yeah,
I wonder how good Florida
made
would
up
be
for
if
his
they had him
advantage
still.
disappearing.
Could you imagine if Florida still had him? Whew.
Yeah,
It'd
no,
be
that
over.
would have been.
Just give them the cup, man.
Yeah, I did have Florida beating the Rangers. I was up until Dallas losing to Edmonton. I was I think 12 for 13, but I had Dallas winning it all. So then it just absolutely blew
Yeah,
it.
Dallas was right there for me. I just
thought
only picked Florida because I really want to see Florida win their first cup. I feel like
now I want Edmonton to win just because I want to see McDavid get that cup, because
realistically,
there's so many casuals
yeah,
out there, people that don't really understand hockey, that are
yeah,
looking. It's like, why is everyone saying he's this most dominant player, but he hasn't won a cup? Like every other sport, the
yeah.
most dominant players always win. It's like, because in hockey, you're only on the ice for like a third of the game. You're only on it for so long.
See, that's the thing though, is in hockey, it's so much more different. Is like one player does not make a huge impact in the NHL
really the
because
only other league where people understand that is baseball, because baseball is
oh yeah,
baseball's even less
baseball's
of
even
a,
less. You only get like
yeah.
3 at-bats, four
I mean, think
sometimes in
about
a
it.
game.
The best player of our generation has never won a playoff game.
Yeah.
And the best player of this current generation, like you'd say Trout's the best of the 2010s, the best, like the next best thing, Shohei's yet to win a playoff game. He's yet to even be to the playoffs. I mean, obviously it's going to happen this year. He's going to go with
What
the
happens when
Dodgers,
they're on
but
the
like,
Angels?
exactly. It's because the Angels were just so incompetent.
See,
And
that's the thing though, is realistically, if I'm the Edmonton GM right now, you got to get depth. It's depth at this point. Like that's why they
yeah,
went
because
out
I
and got
mean,
Henrique, but like they need more than just Henrique. Fogel's actually become decent since the trade where he came over from Carolina, but at the same time, it's just you got Leon Draisaitl, you got Zach Hyman, and you got sometimes Evander Kane and then McDavid, and that's it. And the thing
well,
is you're the worst part
that's
though is
well,
the
and then
goaltending.
Ryan Nugent Hopkins isn't bad.
Oh well, yeah, true. He was way
And
better last year than this year, though.
And then
Hyman kind of took his slot.
their first D line with Ekholm and Bouchard's a good
I
D
love
line.
Ekholm and Bouchard, but after that, like Cody Cece, bro, like, are we serious?
Darnell
right
Nurse was an awful contract. If they can ever get out of that, that would be
They're
good
never
for them.
going to.
I
Another one
think
that they're
really
not
their
going to get
biggest
out of
need,
is what's his name? Jack Campbell. They're not going to get out of either of those.
yeah, I
And
think
that's the
their
problem
biggest
right now
need
for
though,
Edmonton is
I
I
think
feel like it's
Edmonton,
now or nothing.
I think Edmonton needs to not even so much depth. I think they need to upgrade their second line around Draisaitl. It's really shown in this series against a great defensive team like Florida. Draisaitl hasn't done anything, but like, unless he's on the power play, he doesn't really play with any of those top players. Like Evander Kane's disappeared. I mean, Hyman is Hyman. He's going to work well with McDavid, and then Ryan Nugent Hopkins is good. But on that second line, when it's not the power play, who is Draisaitl supposed to be giving it to make his
Yeah, it's
job
either
easier?
Kane or Fogel, and that's just not it. You know?
Yeah, it's not
Fogel,
good,
I
and I
feel
think
like
that's really
Fogel
the
would be a
difference.
great third line guy, but for the second, it's just not there. And another thing, though, like I was mentioning, is I think it's now or never for Edmonton, and that makes me sad. It's only because they have like $15 million in cap space tied up just between Darnell Nurse and then Jack Campbell's contracts, and you're never getting rid of those. It's never happening. Even if you retain half, you'd have to probably give up at least a first. And with them being at the back end of the draft, probably even a little bit more to get somebody to take that contract. So realistically, I feel like it's now or nothing. I know you have McDavid and Draisaitl, so saying all or nothing right now is kind of crazy. But at the same time, man, that team's not going to get better over the course of these next few years. It's going to basically stay stagnant. They're going to have to stay around the same that they are. And depending on Zach Hyman, they may end up losing him based off of him pricing himself out of there. Like, there's a lot you got to take into factoring into this stuff. Like, Zach Hyman's going to go chase that bag potentially. And another one on the opposite side, Reinhart. I feel like Reinhart could do the exact same with Florida. If Florida wins the cup this year, I think Reinhart's gone. And that's
Really, I think Reinhart stays. I think Reinhart stays.
Reinhart right now. Reinhart wants $9.5 million a season, which is literally more than Matthew Tkachuk. It's right up there with Sasha Barkov. And with those two things factoring in, you can't pay him that much money, especially when you have other people like Brandon Montour and Gustav Forsling on the D side you have to resign. You don't have time to do anything like that. You don't have the kind of money. And especially a team like Chicago. I feel like Chicago would be a perfect fit for Reinhart right there. Put him on the wing with Bedard. I feel like Bedard takes that next step. And I think they're willing to pay him that $9.5 million. They have so much cap space they can do it. Florida can't. They maximize their potential there.
As much as I like that, ideally, he's probably going to want an 8-year deal. And by the time Chicago is going to be competitive, it's probably not going to be for another 3-4 years. And by the time they're going to have to start paying their players, do you really want that? Because Reinhardt's not going to be, when you pay for him, it's going to be for what he's giving you right now, not for what he's going to be giving you in years like 6 and 7. Do you really want to take that risk of when you're a contending team and you need to pay your players? Now you have that 9.5 sitting around that you can't get rid of, or you're going to have to buy out or try and trade.
Oh yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah. But at the same time, you got to understand Reinhardt's still relatively young. He's going to be around probably 8 years. It's like 28, I believe, 27, 28, maybe 29.
You see, that's the thing. He's in his prime right now. By the time Chicago's competitive, he's probably not going to be in his prime. I think.
Well, if it's 3 to 4 years from now, I think he'd still be fine. And the thing is,
maybe Anaheim. I think Anaheim's closer to being competitive than Chicago is. I think injuries really killed him this year, and they're still better than Chicago.
Another hot thing I can tell you about this.
You send him there, him and like Leo Carlson.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think Anaheim has any issues other than the coach. I think they got to get a coach. Right now,
I think they still need probably another stud.
No, that's the thing, though, is what I'm saying is if John Gibson can come back to his form like he was a few years ago and they get a relatively competent head coach, I think Anaheim can compete for a playoff spot. And even as deep as the West is, I think they're right there. Look at Nashville. Nashville just made the playoffs this year, but they're talking about maybe potentially trading Saros. That's the spot they could take.
I think Nashville's got to blow it up. I just don't see – they're kind of in no man's land. I think they're good enough to be a wild card team, but
especially with O'Reilly, though, because O'Reilly's getting up there in age. He's not going to be relatively great for this, like for the next few years.
Roman Josi, I think you try and trade like Josi.
No, they'll never trade Josi. That's one thing I know for sure. They'll never trade him. He's like their best captain in franchise history.
I guess, but I think you could get a lot of value because they did the retool thing last year.
Thing, though. With Roman Josi's situation, it's very similar to a goaltender who you might know the name of Pekka Rinne. And I think it's the same exact situation. They're just so well respected in the locker room, a very good leader. He is the face of the Nashville Predators, without a doubt in my mind. Roman Josi. Yeah. I don't care that Saros is in the back. It's Roman Josi through and through. He's been there for everything. He was there for the Cup final run in 2016. I think the one thing with him is I think he has to stay. It's a respect thing at this point, and it happens a lot in sports where we see people stay, and
that's fair.
It's really hard to gauge because it is a new regime right now for the GM and stuff right now. It's a new regime with them, so we might see something there, but I think unless they're blown away, I don't think they do it.
All right, then I guess maybe you keep Josi, but I think you could get a lot. Who's this line mate? That other I can't think of his name. That plays with Josi.
Oh, Fabro?
Dante Fabro? Someone. Maybe that's who plays with them, but there was another like big name defenseman they have who's getting up there. What?
Carrier, maybe. They had Ryan Ellis before, but Ryan Ellis is long gone.
Ryan McDonough.
Oh, they traded him already.
Okay, then why did I think he was still playing for Nashville this year in the playoffs?
Traded him back to Tampa.
Oh, you might be talking about. He was playing. You're right. That trade did just happen. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. They did just trade him, but I think them and I think St. Louis is very similar. I think they need to blow it up. And going over to the Sabres, I think like Pavel Buchnevich, I think would be a perfect fit for the.
I like Konechny too, though. He brings that physical edge. Maybe. I'm just throwing it out there. If the Buffalo Sabres could trade pick number 11 and get Morgan Frost and Travis Konechny from the Flyers, they better do it. Like, they better do it. Those are two guys that are very defense heavy. I think Morgan Frost fits perfectly on the third line there with Greenway if Greenway develops. If not, then put him with Quinn and Peterka. I like that a lot. Second line, you have Cousins at center. Put Konechny on the wing. give Cousins, in my opinion, Cousins is on the hot seat right now. Cousins is not playing that great at center. You give him one more year to try and prove it with a player like Konechny on his wing, or even Skinner if you want to put Konechny on the first line with Thompson. You give him a proven player to work with on that wing. I think he turns back into his form from a few years ago. So I feel like the Sabres make a perfect trade with that. And then
here's my
somebody in free agency.
Here's what I think. I think the first line that we had at the end of last year, I think Thompson and Peterka. I want that to stay. I don't want Skinner back in the first line. The way they were,
I agree.
The way they were playing, and with how young Peterka is, he's going to keep developing. They were one of the best lines in hockey for the last like 20 games. Like they were absolutely dealing. And then I'm not even giving Cousins another year. I think he should stay on the team. I think you move him to third line wing.
Ooh.
And then I think you put Benson and Quinn as the two wingers. So I think we need a second line center. And then we bring back Krebs, Cousins, Skinner for just this year.
Just throwing a name out there.
On our fourth line, you go Gergensen, Greenway, and get someone cheap that can play defense on the other side. And then I think you go out, and me personally, I would like maybe like a Buchnevich. I would love a Mitch Marner. I don't care how expensive. I don't care that he doesn't perform always in the playoffs. I don't care how healthy. I don't care that it's the Maple Leafs. He's such a great passer. You put him with two snipers like Benson and Quinn. I think it really takes them to the next level, and it really fills out that team. I think that team really fills out, and then you give Krebs the 1 year as you let the AHL players develop a little bit more, and then I think you bring up Kulich that can be the 3C, and then maybe Savoy can be that winger, and then you have a line of Cousins, Savoy, and Kulich in the future, and I think you trade away Rosen and you trade away Ostlund to go and get Marner with pick 11. Maybe you'll have to give up more. Maybe you give up who was our second, or like I think we've had a couple of like second and third round picks that have been tearing it up as prospects. I just can't remember their names. I think
Ostlund, Kulich.
I know the big four. I can't. There was like our second round pick last year, and I think even our third round pick won like some MVP in some league or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
he had some really weird name.
You got Kisakov. He's been really good. Realistically though, I think Mitch Marner is just a little too pricey. And the thing is honestly, and this may sound disrespectful to Mitch Marner, but I think Travis Konechny fills the Mitch Marner role perfectly too. I feel like he can do the exact same thing that Mitch Marner can do. It's just he's less. 2, he's more proven and experienced. 3, he's physical. And 4, he's a lot less pricey. I think it would only take our 11th overall pick to get him. And realistically, I'm done with the prospects, bro. I'm done seeing us draft people that aren't going to be on the team for a couple of years. Benson's the exception. Levi is an exception, I guess, whatever. But right now, we need a proven player. We don't need all these young guys. We need somebody that's proven, and Travis Konechny offers that. And so if you can go out and agree. Especially since Philadelphia was saying Konechny would field right now a low-end first. So you package Konechny with a Morgan Frost for 11, that's 2 players for the price of 1 pick that we shouldn't have.
Instead of getting Frostman, go and get like Noah Cates, who's like a Selke level.
See, Noah Cates too. Noah Cates would work perfect. Because
I think
then
you go Konechny and Cates, and you might have to give up more than
Cates
11.
Is your
maybe you give up
like instead of having to go and sign somebody cheap.
Give up like 11 and Rosen to go and get Konechny and Cates, and then I want to bring back Gergensen.
I don't think
I really want to bring back Gergensen. I think what?
I don't think it would cost Rosen. Everything I've been hearing on Konechny is the highest pick they've been offered for Konechny is 20.
No, I'm saying if you do it with Cates though, and then you might have to give up Rosen because out of our top 4 prospects, Rosen's
Konechny
probably a 4th best.
Together. I think Frost is the better player, and they were saying Frost and Konechny for our 11th overall pick. I think Cates is a little bit underdeveloped. I think of him more like a Peyton Krebs out of him and Alex Tuch deal. Not that big of a gap, though, in my opinion. I think it's a little bit smaller, but I think Noah Cates is a little bit worse than Morgan Frost. He's just younger. So, if anything, you maybe package in like a different pick, a 4th, maybe a prospect, maybe Rosen, but I hope it's not Rosen. I think Rosen can be a guy long-term. I feel like if anything, if we do trade Rosen, it's just to clear out a spot because we have so many amazing prospects, in
Yeah.
my opinion. So many
We
guys
have
on the
the
come
best.
up. So I think line 1 goes Tuck, Thompson, Paterka. Line 2, you keep Cousins, you put Skinner, and you put on the right wing probably Konechny, or maybe, like you said, we could put Cousins down on the third line even. I think Cousins' third line C might work, maybe a winger spot. I know he's not that great in the dot right now. So you put him on the third line at center. You put Konechny with Benson and Quinn on the second line. And then you got Cousins on that third line with 1 and B. And then basically that fourth line's just Girgensons, Greenway, and then Cates. I think that'd work fine. Or even move Cates up
Yeah.
to the third if you think he's that high.
Yeah. Either way, we're one of the best
And
prospect
then
pools
sign
in the
somebody.
league,
Hence, though,
and
I
we
think,
don't really have any room
oh,
for
yeah.
anyone. Like we're
Yeah.
already 4 defensemen because we're not obviously trading Dahlin or Power. We're not trading them. And
Yeah,
then we just traded for Byram. I don't really see us trading Byram. And then we just gave Samuelson that big extension. So we're not going to trade him. And you're not going to give up
We're
a
not,
top
we can't.
prospect for a third line defenseman.
Yeah.
Unless you want to get someone better to play with Byram and then you move Samuelson down to the fourth line or the third line defenseman, but you're paying him so much money, I don't see him doing that.
One name I want to throw out there that I would love if he came back is Brandon Montour. I think he stays in Florida, but if Florida goes the route of extending Montour and Reinhart, Gustav Forsling is right there as well. Gustav Forsling is one of the best defensive defensemen in the game. He can offer that offense a little bit. The only issue is he's a left shot. So I really want us to go and get a right shot this offseason. I think that's very critical. We need a second line right shot defenseman. Henry Jokiharju is not it. Samuelson's not it. Those are third line guys, in my opinion.
And then,
so
and
I think you need to get
the
somebody
thing
for that
is,
second line.
realistically, then I don't even know if I want Samuelson if he's not going to play in the second line because I like Ryan Johnson and then Jacob Bryson. I think Bryson was extremely underrated last year. I know he didn't really put up much numbers, but I just remember watching games and he was constantly like just making plays in the defensive end. He was constantly just something broke down and he was just there to make up for it. Like I'm not like I didn't play hockey or anything like that, so I don't know like the whole like ins and outs, but like just from watching as a fan perspective, I just remember the amount of times I'm like, wow, thank God Bryson was there to be able to make that play, or there was an easy shot on goal. Like he just seemed to always be like all over the defensive side of the ice, and I really like that. And then Ryan Johnson, I think he can continue to develop.
That's the thing with him, though.
Who's another name that I like? Well, yeah, you put Ryan Johnson with Bryson. Bryson's a good defensive, and then and that can be your good third line defense.
Well, yeah, but I don't know.
Is Chychrun a left or right shot?
He's a right shot, I believe. Right, no, he's a left shot. Jacob Chychrun, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure because I mean I know Ottawa's in our division, and you don't really hear people trading within the division, but lately, like this trade
another
deadline,
guy you can go out and get is a Colton Parayko. St. Louis has been shopping Colton Parayko. It probably only cost a second or a third, considering he's got almost a $6 million cap hit. So put him on that second line D with Byram, or even put him up on the first line with Dahlin. Let Byram and Power be the first line. I'd like that, and then throw that third line. Like you said, it's just a rotation at that point. It's just whoever plays the best in camp. But if you can go out there and you can get a second line right shot defenseman, I'm extremely heavy on the right shot defenseman part. We need one.
Yeah,
we don't have anybody in the prospect system really. We need to get a guy who can shoot right. So you going out and get a right shot defenseman, and then maybe a third line winger. And then if the trade doesn't happen with a Konechny or a Marner or even Ehlers, I guess, is on the market. Other players.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say Ehlers wouldn't be bad.
You got to sign a big name guy.
Elias Lindholm, Jonathan Marchessault, the two guys I want. Lindholm.
What about Luukkonen? What do you think with Luukkonen? Do you give him that extension? Do you not?
Yes. You give it to him and you don't really think about it because, yeah, okay, you give him a 3-year deal and you let Levi develop. And I think this year you play about a 50-30 split. Not like Luukkonen have about 50 to 52 games. Levi have about 30. And then you can possibly have what Boston has in the Swayman and Allmark situation, and then you just let UPL for a couple more years, and then and like 2 or 3 years you just trade UPL, by then hopefully Levi develops into that workhorse where he can play 60 plus games a year, and then you can get really good value out of UPL, who still probably will be in his prime. I think you give him a 4-year 4x5, and in 2 years you look to trade him someone. The value is going to be higher because he's still going to have 2 years of control. Maybe even you trade him after 3 years. It gives you more options. I just don't think we can let him walk. It would just make absolutely no sense, especially since we still have the cap space to be able to afford that right now. We're at 24 mil this year because the salary cap went up from 83.5 to 88 mil. So, and Skinner's deal is going to be coming off the book soon.
Is but with Luukkonen though, the one thing that really does scare me is 1 year wonders, and we've seen it way too many times in the NHL, especially recently with Jack Campbell. We've seen it with Jonas Korpisalo. We've seen it with a lot of these defensemen. With these goalies. We've seen it a lot with these goalies, though. And so that's the one thing that really confuses me is like
that scares me a little bit. But he did show flashes 2 years ago. Obviously, UPL wasn't good, but he showed flashes and he was young and it was his first year up. And I just think he made that jump. And then, okay, say we give him the extension and he ends up not being good. He falls off. Honestly, is it going to hurt us that much? Not really, because we still have Levi, and then we can afford to eat that bad contracts. It's not like we're giving him 10 mil. We're giving him like a 4x5. We can afford to eat that contract for 2 years until other extensions kick in and we get the Skinner deal off. Then we can go and give up him in a second just to salary dump, or we can definitely get out of that money pretty easily in 2 or 3 years if needed, and we can eat that right now.
It depends, really, because you have Byram, you have Peterka coming up for extensions this offseason for next year. Next year, they're going to be free agents. And so you like to extend them long term.
Well, Peterka for sure, but Byram, I really like those first couple games he came over. I'm like, oh my God, this dude's a stud. We found
it depends on how he plays next year, in my opinion.
I don't know if it was Granato's system. I don't know what it was, but after the first 5 games, like his underlying numbers, Byram underlying numbers were like awful. He was like 17th percentile in WAR. He was just he was terrible defensively, and his offensive game wasn't even making up for it. Like, he was not playing good. I'm not saying we get rid of him now. I think you just play out the year. And then if he doesn't prove it, you let him walk, and we have the prospects. We have the ability to go and just replace him pretty easily. So
right.
So I don't know. I would just love to give Peterka the extension right now. Get out of the head of it.
I think it'd be smart to do it now, especially from a hockey standpoint. Thinking about it right now, if you don't extend Peterka this offseason, you give him 1 more year, then he's going to want a lot more money because he did it twice in a row. If you extend him right now, I'm not going to lie to you. If we extend him right now, I think it's probably $3 to $4 million for each year. I think 4 years, $16 million would be perfect for him.
Oh my God, I would drool if that's the contract, because I think he's gonna pop out again. Because I think you continue. I don't see a reason why you take him off the first line with the way they were playing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Year, and he's gonna put up crazy numbers.
See, that's the
3 snipers on one line. It's nuts.
Oh yeah, we'll end up seeing with that. But we're gonna hop in here a little bit, getting close to game time. So let me see here what's next up on the list. We're gonna talk MLB for a little bit. So, What are your shocks about the MLB this season? Anything too big?
I mean, there's definitely some surprise. Honestly, the biggest surprise is the fact that Aaron Judge is actually better than he was in 2022, which I marked the greatest non-steroid season I've ever seen of my life. Of honestly the past 50 years, the greatest non-steroid hitting season ever. And this year he is somehow beating it. Like, his projected WAR is higher, his OPS is higher, his on-base percentage, his slugging, his batting average is almost the same. He's on pace for like 59 home runs. His OPS plus is a 230, and his record-breaking year was a 210. It's like he had an 11.2 WAR in 2022. He's projected to have a 12 WAR. That's like, if you look on Baseball Reference, they say, like, so people can kind of see how much WAR is. 8+ is an MVP season, and like 4+ is an All-Star. He's playing like an MVP and an All-Star combined. And that's with having an awful. He gave everyone a month head start. He was awful in April. He had like 6 home runs, was batting like 200. Everyone was concerned. And then over the last 41 games, he's on like an 85 home run pace. Like, it's actually insane. He has like a slugging, like an OPS of like 1,600. His slugging itself is almost 1,000 over these last like 40 games. It just doesn't make any sense how this dude is that good and not using steroids. Like, imagine if he was on steroids.
Talking
It's
about
crazy, but
home run season.
yeah, team wise, it's definitely the Royals. I mean, they were 56 and 106 last year. They were the Athletics were the laughing stock of the league, and if it wasn't for everyone knowing the Athletics were the laughing stock, the Royals would have been. Like, they were as bad as the Athletics were last year. And
they
then
have like
this year
40 wins right now, something like that. 40.
they have 39.
39.
They've kind of cooled off lately, and they're running into the Yankees right now, so they'll probably get swept. But they had 56 wins last year. We're not even halfway through June, and they are probably they're gonna hit 40 by halfway through June. They're gonna meet their wins by latest the end of July. They're gonna meet their win total from last year.
Oh yeah.
Like Bobby Witt Jr., he is a superstar. He is a franchise
That's the
player.
thing
He's
is
really
they have the guys. They have the guys.
have the
just have to
pitching.
develop.
They need their offense. Their lineup needs more depth. I mean, Salvador Perez has had a resurgence, but he's old. Don't expect that to happen. Don't expect that to continue too long. And then their pitching staff of Brady Singer, Seth Lugo, and Cole Reagans is really good.
From Singer, man.
Yeah, no, their pitching staff is kind of good, but their offense, besides Bobby, they definitely not this year. I think they just let this year play out, kind of like with the Orioles when they went out of their really bad. They had the 1 year where they ended up with like 80 wins, and even though they actually were like a game.
Damn, the Oilers had 80 wins. They went 80-2.
No, the Orioles, they had like 88 or 89 wins. I think 2 years ago, and they almost made the playoffs. And at the trade deadline, they were right in the thick of things, and they were still sellers. Like, they realized that was not their year. They just let their young guys play it out and develop. And then in the offseason, they went and made some moves. Obviously, last year they make that jump, and then this year they go and get Corbin Burns, who is third right now in my Cy Young ballot. Or if we're going to talk about surprising, Luis Gil is insane. He's unhittable. He is like a 140 batting average against, which is like the next highest or the next lowest, like 170. It's absolutely his stuff. He's allowed I think 35 hits and like 13 starts or something crazy like that. He is insane. Just absolutely insane. But the thing is, he's not going to win Cy Young because Tariq Skubal is just on another level. Another level this year. Here it is a 3.5 WAR for a pitcher. He's going to end up with like an 8 to 9 plus WAR. That's insane for someone who's pitching one every 5 games.
Oh yeah,
like he has just been out of this world.
I feel like my surprising team's got to be Milwaukee or Cleveland. 43 and 22 for Cleveland. 40 and 28 for Milwaukee. Yeah. There's a lot going on with these teams. There's a lot.
If I'm an Indians fan, I'm pretty happy to go and get, because there's right now 3 guys at the top of the list for this draft. My favorite, obviously, being the Gators. The Gators player.
Of course, being a Gators fan.
Yeah, I've never been super big into college baseball. I've started to get into it a little bit more recently, but
yeah,
Jack Caglione he's insane. He batted over like 400. With like 30 plus home runs, and then there's also pitches. He's like the next I'm not saying he's going to be good enough pitcher to make it to the majors. A lot of people I think are just going to draft him because of his bat, but he could develop into a pitcher and be the next Shohei. And then there's a dude from Oregon State, and then a dude from Georgia. So Cleveland's got it going pretty good right now, being that good and having the number 1 overall pick. It's kind of like last year, Texas won the World Series and had the number 3 overall pick and got Wyatt Langford.
Oh, yeah. It's a little scary. I'll tell you what. But I think those got to be my 2 most surprising teams. They've been great. Realistically, I thought losing Corbin Burns that the Brewers were going to fall off a little bit more. Having to rely more on, what's his name there? The other pitcher they have.
Brandon Woodruff.
Yep. Perfect.
And they're doing this without the best reliever. No, second best reliever in baseball.
Yeah. He's right up
with
there.
Devin Williams, who hasn't even. I mean, relievers don't mean too much, but he is an absolute beast. Really, what's crazy about the Brewers is the resurgence of Christian Yelich. He is playing really good this year.
Christian Yelich, yeah.
That offense, in years past, was dreadful, but this year they've actually won one of the better offenses in the league.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went on a little bit of a Diamondbacks run this year. I feel like they got that kind of level of a team. I feel like it just depends on if the Braves live up to expectations. Because if the Braves keep playing like this, I think they're very beatable for the Brewers. And the Phillies might be the daunting task, them and the Dodgers. But if they match up with the Braves, I think they can handle them.
Well, yeah, I think they could win a round against the Braves, especially with Acuna going down. That could be rough for the Braves, but the Phillies, their offense is insane. They probably
Oh yeah,
have the
Harper's been
best, or
on a tear.
them and the Yankees by far and away have the two best pitching staffs in baseball,
Oh
and
yeah,
their pitchers are playoff risers. Like Zach Wheeler in the playoffs is just almost
you don't.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to mess
Ranger
with them.
Suarez has come out of nowhere. Aaron Nola's always been a super consistent, like 3
See, that's
ERA.
the thing
His
is, I do
underlying
not
numbers
like
are
the
always
Phillies.
better than
Being a
he is, and
Mets
he's
fan, I
finally
hate the
living up to it.
Phillies, but they're insane.
Their
They're
weakness,
insane.
right, really is their bullpen, and their bullpen actually that's what killed them in years past has been really good this year, and they still have the trade deadline to upgrade that. The offense, obviously, Bryce Harper. Kyle Schwarber is going to always get you a lot of home runs. Alec
Of
Boehm,
course.
I don't know what I don't know if he's taking roids or something because he is insane now. Trey Turner is Trey Turner. Like that offense,
Don't
even though
forget
it
about
should,
Castellanos in the field.
yeah, I mean he's a super hot or cold hitter.
Oh
Usually
yeah,
if tragedy strikes, you're gonna want Castellanos on your team. But I
I
just
know
saw
what
I
you
think
mean.
JT Realmuto just got injured. He's got to undergo some
Yeah,
surgery. I think I got some notification earlier. Let me see if I can find that. Um,
there's a lot of stuff
maybe it
going
was.
on though. We're about halfway through the MLB season, a little under, but I think that the teams that I thought were going to be good are, for the most part, they're doing good. I feel like the another team to talk about for a team that I thought could have been a little bit better was the Rangers. The Rangers sitting there, they're not really that good right now. They're only like 31-35. Like they're not it. They're
Yeah, I mean, if
when it
they
comes
could
to
get healthy, I mean, if they get Scherzer and Degrom back, they definitely could. But some
Seager's
of their
trying to carry
players,
too much right now. It's hard.
like Evan Carter, who was big in the postseason, hasn't been
Oh yeah,
good. Wyatt Langford, who was crazy that he's already been called up, but he hasn't been great yet. I mean, give him time. He was
he's a
drafted
rookie.
last year, which is
Yeah,
unheard of to make your MLB debut the year after you were drafted.
I mean him and
Um,
Skeens.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Skeens is an exception because that dude is just insane. You know, I've been talking up Paul
Oh
Skeens
yeah,
all year long.
oh
Like
yeah.
that dude, his second ever start, he had like an
Livy Dunn is
11
the best
strikeout.
rotational
He had a
pitcher I've
14
ever seen.
strikeout game. He was a no hitter through 6 innings. They took him out because they don't want to injure him. He already had like 100 pitches. He had 14 strikeouts. He struck out like the first like 7 hitters. Like
Oh
he is
yeah,
actually insane. And then yeah, he's dating Livy Dunn, which is definitely a plus too.
Livy Dunn is insane. She's insane, bro. She's insane
Yeah.
ball player. Absolutely insane ball player. Really knows how to handle the shaft and get it into the second deck. You know what I'm saying?
Stop.
Anyway, before this gets demonetized, let's head into the last segment here. NFL, not a lot going on right now. It's the middle dark days of the offseason, as they like to call it. Realistically, what's going on right now? I mean, you got Buffalo, and that's basically all we're going to talk about. I saw a notification earlier today. Allen's tweaking his throwing motion, so we'll see
Yeah, to
how
pick
that
up
goes.
efficiency. Hopefully that. Yep.
Yeah, apparently he's been a lot more accurate. Allen went 14 of 14 during OTAs after doing this throwing motion, it said. So Allen's been on a tear. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people are writing off the Bills this year. But the thing is, this might be the year that we see. I don't want to talk us up because I know I'm a diehard Bills fan, but still, I really think that now that Josh Allen doesn't have to worry about having to feed Diggs every game, he can throw it to whoever he wants, whenever he wants. That is going to be very helpful for Josh Allen. He's going to be able to spread the ball out. Look at Mahomes in the offense. That makes it so much more unpredictable. You don't know who they're going to throw the ball to. You don't know if they're going to run the ball now because they don't have their superstar guy in Hill. They don't
Yeah,
have these big game
yeah.
dudes.
This offense reminds me a lot of the 2022 Chiefs, where they
Yeah,
relied
see?
on a strong offensive line, a strong run game. Allen or Mahomes being Mahomes, but Allen being Allen in this. A tight end, obviously Kincaid is not Kelsey, not saying he is, but we're expecting him to take that jump into being an absolute stud where he's going to be the number one attack. And then a bunch of receivers who can do a bunch of different things. So there's always, you need someone to go get open. You need that short pass to get open on 3rd and 5. We got Samuel, we got Shakir to do that. We need someone to go make a big play down the field. We got MVS, we got Coleman, we got Hollins to do that.
Oh
We
yeah.
need a gadget. We want to mix it up and do some little gadgety play. Curtis Samuel for that. Like,
See, that's what I was gonna say. Curtis Samuel, dude. You gonna put him on the end around sweep? Allen's in the shotgun. You don't know if it's either Cook
yeah.
getting the ball, Allen keeping it, or if it's Samuel. And you know how deadly that is? You don't know if it's going to be Josh Allen keeping it. You don't know if it's going to be Cook, and you don't know if it's going to be Samuel. And I'm telling you, dude, it's going to be an amazing offense. We're balanced on that side. I'm not even ever worried about the defense, really. Sean McDermott's amazing coach on the defensive side of the ball. It's the offense that's lacking most years. I trust Joe Brady to get the job done again. And on top of that, realistically, the Bills are better in the underdog role. We've always been better in the underdog role. Look at 2019. No one thought we were even sniffing the playoffs. Made it to the wild card round. If we didn't choke, we would have beat the Texans, and that's besides the point. But still, we work better as the underdog. And
did you see
right
ESPN Bet's projections for Josh Allen? Like the betting lines
over
for Josh Allen's passing yards and passing touchdowns.
Over 3,700
it's disgusting.
yards. Yeah.
Yeah. I literally commented, I can't wait to turn 21 so I can put my entire bank account on the overs because it is practically free money. Obviously, it's gambling, so there's risks, but the 26, like over the 26, I kind of can understand that because if he has a bunch of rushing touchdowns like last year, I could see it. But 3,650 passing yards? Are you kidding me? He's never hit under 4,300. Like what kind of drugs were they on when they decided to make it 3,650?
Even if Allen has an off year, I think that at the very lowest it's 3,850, 3,900, and
I just don't see a world.
Lowest.
I don't see a world where he stays healthy and goes under 4,000.
Exactly.
I physically can't see it.
It makes no sense to me. So
it doesn't make any sense to me either.
Other than that, there's been a lot of talk about some cut candidates right now for the Bills. Will Clapp is actually in that conversation, believe it or not. I think he's had a pretty strong mini camp. Another guy, Deion Jones, who we just had signed off the Panthers. I think he could be a decent depth piece, but right now it's Spector and the rookie. I do not know how to pronounce his name, but it's those two. I feel like it's their job to lose, basically, for the backup role. And then I think it goes Morrow in the Klein role. Morrow, and then you got, obviously, Milano, who's back at practice.
Here's what I put for my roster, because we were talking about this earlier. Obviously, the quarterbacks, Allen and Mitch. Running backs, I think, are also pretty easy. Cook, Davis, Ty Johnson, Gilliam. Wide receivers, I got Shakir, Samuel, Coleman, Hollins, MVS. I think those are locks. I think it's the race for the last spot. And I think Claypool ends up getting it.
Claypool's been a dog.
The way they've been raving about him, I think he gets it. And then tight ends, pretty easy. Kincaid, Knox, Morris. That's not really much to decide there.
Unless not much going on there either.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you really
line, I got Dawkins, Edwards, McGovern, Torrance Brown. Obviously, the rookie Van Pranger. I feel like he's pretty safe.
Collins, I think he may start depending on how good he is.
With how much money we gave Collins, I don't see him getting caught. And then the other guys I put were Alec Anderson and Van Denmark. I think those are the two. I think the two rookies we drafted, I think they make the practice squad because the one guy, he doesn't even count against the practice squad or whatever, the roster that dude that came over.
Yep, that's Gable Stevens.
No, that I'm actually, if he makes the 53-man roster, I'm buying his jersey. Obviously, I wrestled, huge wrestling fan. I love college wrestling.
You're talking about Travis Clayton then?
Yes. The
Australian guy.
Yes, that's the dude who won't count against the roster spot because he's the pathway to play thing or whatever. No, Gable Stevenson, I'm so happy that we signed him. I love that dude. He was one of my favorite wrestlers to watch.
He can be a dog on the D line too. He showed flashes, and the thing is he's learning under one of the best defensive ends of our generation in Von Miller. I know
he's insanely athletic.
We'll see.
And he's got that wrestling background, so he's gonna be able to engage and disengage very well with offensive linemen because of that wrestling upside. And he literally does double and triple backflips. Watch videos of him doing he'll do cartwheels to backflips like he's 150 pounds and he's 300. It's actually
he's Livy Dunn.
He won a gold medal at 21 years old.
Oh yeah, we'll see how
in one of the greatest matches I've ever watched. But then D line, I got Eddie, Daquan, Austin Johnson, Dwayne Carter, and Deshaun Williams. Edge, I got Rousseau, Epinesa, Vaughn, Solomon, Smoot. Linebackers, Milano Bernard, William Spector Morrow, corners, Benford, Douglas, Johnson, Elam, Hardy, and Ingram, and then safeties, Rapp, Edwards, Bishop, Lewis, Hamlin, and then Bass, Martin, and Ferguson is for the special teams.
So, one last question here before we wrap things up. What are your thoughts on safety? Who starts? I know Taylor Rapp probably. Do you think Cole Bishop gets the nod as the rookie, or do you think it goes to Edwards?
I think it goes to Edwards. I think he's going to be like, I think Bishop's going to be a lot like how Rapp was last year. When we need that
Yeah.
third, when we go to our dime defense and we want that 6 DB, that box safety, if we want to go and put a linebacker up on the line, or there's a lot of things we can do because we brought in Rapp a lot last year and put Poyer up in the box. I think Bishop's the one that goes in the box, like on third downs when we need someone to cover tight ends. Bishop's obviously that's like his one of the things he's known for is he can cover very well. So I think, especially being a rookie, I think it's Rapp and Edwards, and then I think Bishop takes the Rapp role from last year, and then after this year, I think Bishop obviously takes it over for Edwards.
All right. Works for me. I would like it. I think the Bills are going to be good this year. I'm hoping the Buffalo Sabres can do the same. Other than that, though, guys, thank you all for watching our very first episode of the Sports Lab podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Bailey. Alex Smiley and us are going to sign off. We got basketball coming your way here tonight. We'll be back again shortly with a live streamed episode on YouTube, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys all again for watching, and we'll see you all next time.